Hey, we're back in black.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, everybody? This is a special video where we are going to read some one-star reviews for Iron Man 1. Either you're watching this early on the Patreon, or we've recently just finished our breakdown of Iron Man 1, and we're posting these as special extras after that whole breakdown before we go into the Incredible Hulk. But my name is Brian.
I'm Richard.
And let's read some one-star reviews. So I'm looking up the reviews on IMDb just to avoid one-star reviews on like Amazon that might be like, the Blu-ray sucks. But here is the first one when I sorted it from 1 star to 10. And this is by Delta Force 7. It's titled A Typical Marvel-Based Product, but it was posted in May 22nd, 2013.
5 years after the release.
Yeah, just about.
We don't even know what they mean with that headline, with their title, A Typical Marvel-Based Product. Like, they're 5 years into the run. You know how many movies they had at that point? Not that many.
Iron Man 3 came out in 2013 or soon after Avengers, either 2012, 2013. So it went Avengers in 2012, then Iron Man 3.
Watching this movie, I think this is pretty far from the typical Marvel product, so let's see what this person means.
I know that one should not expect anything deep or serious from a comic book-based movie, which, by the way, the year this came out, The Dark Knight came out. The year Avengers came out, The Dark Knight Rises came out, so I don't even understand that
their criticism, logic. Yeah.
But with all this talk about the Iron Man movies being psychological, dramatic, and stuff, I took my time to watch this one. Well, it started out on a lower grown-up level of complexity, but then it turned into a typical Marvel comic stuff.
It turned into a typical Marvel movie stuff? Is that what they said?
Comic stuff.
Turned into a typical Marvel comic stuff. Do you know how to turn into a typical stuff?
I mean, I get how this movie has a lot in common with the other Marvel movies, especially the origin stories in terms of its structure. Like, person starts out not a hero, something happens that makes them a hero, they learn a lesson possibly, but then they end up fighting someone similar to them. This one with Ironmonger being like Iron Man, the Hulk fighting the Abomination, Captain America fighting Red Skull, same serum, Doctor Strange fighting other ex-disciples of the Ancient One, and other things like that. So I get that there's similarities, but let's keep going. If this kind of a movie is intended for the adult audience, then the audience members should have their IQs rated at no higher than 0. What's the lowest IQ rating you can even get?
I don't know.
It's definitely not 1.
Pretty sure it's like 40 and you're in a padded room. Man, this person really doesn't like... I want to see them clarify a little bit more what the hell they're talking about, so let's continue.
Alright. Otherwise, one could not watch all this ridiculous stuff seriously. On the technical side, I did understand why all the Al-Qaeda guys carried those expensive, modern, German-made H&K rifles. 99 times out of 100 members of these organizations use Chinese, Romanian, Czech... I don't think they spelled Czech right.
No, they didn't. It's CZ. But yeah, okay.
Polish or sometimes Russian-made AK family of rifles and machine guns, mostly the outdated models. The remaining 1 hour 100 OUR instead of 1 of 100 may carry an old FN or a SIG rifle, if not a World War I era Lee Enfield. What the... Okay, thanks. I mean, I know he's really focused on destroying the weapons that are bought by terrorists that his company made, but like... getting too much into the technical of this. This isn't a documentary show about guns. If someone does not know these obvious facts, then he really needs to start watching news reports at the very least. It does not require one to be an expert on terrorist organizations or firearms to know this. I beg to differ based on your previous sentences right before that. It was also funny to witness that shameless Burger King whatever, if you know what I mean. Yeah, cool. Product placement's fine.
It's fucking everywhere.
I guess that a true American patriot and a visionary will not eat any Subway food, right?
What the fuck does that mean?
I don't...
Hang on. Where is that in here? I guess a true American... So this reviewer is literally like, I prefer Subway. What a stupid un-American prick. He didn't eat Subway. He chose Burger King.
This isn't a documentary about the types of guns they use, and they use Subway?
Wow.
If you're listening to audio, I threw a paper towel roll at the camera for dramatic effect.
He actually hit it, too. Ooh. That's more surprising.
It's too... You're racist, man.
Yeah, okay.
That's Craig Craig Ferguson reference. In short, this movie is a childish pseudo sci-fi, and it does not even cut it as a piece of mindless entertainment. Why did this say spoilers? It said warning spoilers on there. It's not spoilers. It's just a bunch of you don't know the footnotes. Blah blah blah. Whatever. What do you think?
He wanted all the realism possible for what type of weapons they were using and the exact type of assault rifles they were using in a comic book movie. This dude sounds like a military nerd who's never actually in the military, and he doesn't sound like super well socialized. He's like,
and it's about an American gun manufacturer who wants to stop manufacturing their guns made in America, yet he's like, hey, actually it would be Chinese, Romanian, Czech, Polish, or sometimes Russian made AK.
And that's such basic knowledge.
Yeah, there's something different.
Like, you know, I can understand wanting someone pointing out a flaw of accuracy and, like, just pointing that out, but this is what they based it around. This was a third of their review. These are obviously not the weapons that Al-Qaeda type groups would be using.
You know that when we get to Captain America, the first Avenger, they're going to be like, you know Hydra didn't exist, right? Like, 99 out of 100 Nazis were Nazis. The other 1% were Nazis.
This dude is legit. He's trying to give, like, a subtle dig, saying, like, oh, I guess a visionary wouldn't eat Subway, right? Like, what's it have to do with anything? So, I don't know.
You know, someone who regularly eats Burger King isn't gonna look like Tony Stark either, right?
And
he's gonna look like Fat Star-Lord or Fat Thor. Ooh.
I don't know. This dude, then it turned into typical Marvel movie stuff. You see, I wish they...
I thought he was going with the structure, and how people say all Marvel movies are the same.
Right. Well, it's, I mean, when they say that, it's not even, it's like...
It's at a basic level, you can boil a lot down to certain story structure points, but that's how most films boil down to, with the exception of like fighting someone who has exactly the same powers. But you know, so like the hero's journey, the origin story.
In my opinion, a lot of the criticism of typical Marvel movie stuff would be like how they all have the same exact sense of humor. It's like they'll all go stupid for a second and make a dumb joke, and like that's the joke. I get tired of that after 20 movies. Like,
how dare you?
Like literally, I was all for all these movies, 10 movies through, but literally they all started blending into each other. Ant-Man was really original, and that's why I liked the Ant-Man and the Wasp the most. Like, this dude
I would actually say those are the least original.
How are they the least?
Most derivative. As in, they don't add anything special. Like, the things that they have special, they don't dive deep in on. Like, there was someone who said that Ant-Man and the Wasp should have been majoratively in the quantum realm and, like, given us something new instead of, like, a quirky chase around the town kind of deal.
You heard one reviewer say that. Why should it be like that, though?
Because it would have been more fascinating.
It would have been more fascinating.
Like, it would have been more original, you know, spending the whole movie in the quantum realm.
Right,
and, like, trying to find her and going on this visually beautiful journey instead of play keep away.
So we know, yeah, that would have been nice. Okay, I can agree with that, but I also wouldn't expect them to make that movie because a majority of the audience would watch this movie like, what? They're just in another quantum realm this whole time?
No. I think Avatar did something similar. They went to a beautiful Avatar? Just Avatar. Not
James Cameron. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Avatar did something similar where it took a normal person and put them in a completely alien world and made it beautiful and gorgeous and something to be soaked into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was extra layers to that, but
what's the quantum realm gonna be like?
I mean, we got it at the end for like a few minutes. Just that, but bigger. There was even a city in the background in one scene.
Really?
You know? Yeah.
Damn, I need
a whole civilization.
I need to rewatch it. Anyways, this guy is like, it's typical Marvel drivel, and he's like, the guns they used weren't realistic. That's duh.
Next.
All right, I'll read it this time.
All right, this one also says spoilers, so hopefully it's actually spoilers.
1 out of 10. Awful by David Edwards 1. Awful, awful, awful. How many times can we bear to watch essentially the same film over and over again? This was the first film in the franchise.
What date did they?
October 2nd, 2008. So I don't know, man.
There were no other. What? Huh? I don't remember the year of The Incredible Hulk, but
this person actually elaborates a little bit more.
Okay, but like they're already on the train of how many times can we watch the same thing?
I know. This sounds like a tough customer.
They must be really pissed by now.
You've seen Superman, Batman, Batman Begins, Batman ends, Batman begins, then pauses. Spider-Man 1, 2, 3.5, 4, 5. It's the same thing.
The fuck
Again.
are you talking
I'm
about,
waiting for
dude?
the cited examples, but still not exactly why.
Wait,
Invincible good guy. Go on.
The Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2011.
Mhm.
They're not even... What is this? 1, 2, 3.5, 4...
So far, this guy cited rich, invincible good guy, which would match with Batman, but completely different journey, I would say, because
Also, Batman
Tony
Begins
gets
wasn't invincible.
Tony gets kidnapped. He gets freaking kidnapped for the first half hour to 40 minutes of the movie, and he's like in prison. So
Ally turned enemy. Okay.
all right, we're gonna continue. Again, rich, invincible good guy doting beautiful woman, ally turned enemy. Endless explosions, amazing special effects, storylines that you endure like 10-ton weight on your heart. Storylines that you endure like 10.
Half of these are legitimate criticisms to the superhero movie. Doting female,
Right.
beautiful woman. Like even in Doctor Strange, they had that
Sure.
with Rachel McAdams.
You know, beautiful women are in the world. Like, there's just.
I mean, as opposed to like Black Widow or how it developed and had Wasp being Ant-Man and the Wasp. You know,
Sure.
I agree with a couple of these things.
Okay. Endless explosions, it's there, yeah, sure. It's okay, whatever, we're gonna continue. Amazing special
Most
storyline.
not.
Storylines that you endure like a 10-ton weight on your heart.
Yeah, I don't agree with that
So,
one.
this isn't an unoriginal storyline, it's pretty unique to Iron Man. You know what I mean? Whatever, we'll continue. In future years, it will be viewed as one of the great follies of our time that vast armies of people were employed making stuff like this at an insane cost. He wrote this in 2008. It's one of the great follies.
In the, I believe it was in the first one that I read 1-star reviews for X-Men with Wolf on that podcast. Someone said, sequel baits, but no one will see X-Men 2.
It's so bland criticism of these movies.
It's not so bland. It's
Predictable
better
and
than
corporate.
usual, but there are some stuff that are not as inventive or new.
Do you know why I think I'm doing like pretty well this video? Because a lot of what I do is like I repeat what people say in a mocking tone. So I'm just doing that here. It's so bland, so predictable, so corporate. The shameless product placement, so militaristic.
There's one! Like, you...
So far. We got to Burger King.
No, but in this movie, one product placement. I mean, people criticized Michael Bay for putting much more obvious product placement in The Island, and he's like, I'd rather have the extra $500,000 to do some stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. But there's so...
The glorying of the latest U.S. manned and unmanned killing machines. Tony
Is that
Stark.
the glorifying?
They say the glorying.
but
Yeah, it probably means glorifying. The same thing. The glorying of the latest U.S. manned and unmanned killing machines. Tony Stark is trying to, like, get people to use these for good. He realizes we can do more than just, like, killing things. We don't need to have producing weapons for the sake of war as our primary goal. That's, like, his whole arc. So, okay. Don't even get me started on the politics. The U.S. saving the wretched of the earth from their own bad guys. You know, I saw a cave of the yellow dog. Nothing happened. That took a right turn. A little Mongolian girl loses her dog and goes looking for it. She doesn't fall off a cliff. There are no monsters, craze killers, or car crashes or explosions, but it's sweet and beautiful. The moment where she chats with the old woman in the yurt is full of childish wonder and human warmth.
This just doesn't sound like it's your kind of movie. I agree there are extra details since this came out in 2008 and we didn't see the full scope of everything that was wrong with going into Afghanistan by that point. And they seemed a little ahead of the curve, and bravo. But this movie was using that as like a template. They switched out the outdated factors to his origin story and put in the new ones. And while, yes, it's not as accurate and it doesn't give as much to the whole point of view as it could, it starts out glorifying the Jericho and then doing an about face. They start out glorifying his hedonistic, alcohol-loving, sex-crazed, I don't give a shit about the world attitude, so that when he changes, it matters. So, yeah, they do that, but then they correct it and say that that wasn't right.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what a yurt is?
It's like a place someone lives, right?
I don't know. I feel like an uncultured swine not knowing what a yurt is.
Where it's just
it's an
a
ancient
circular
shelter.
tent of felt or skins on a collapsible framework used by nomads in Mongolia, Siberia, and Turkey.
The moment where she chats to the old woman in the yurt is full of childish wonder and human warmth. I was watching two people who were completely different from, but exactly the same as me. Amazing! That's when I knew what a burden films like Iron Man are in our lives. Enough!
They literally take a person who lives in Afghanistan, Yinsen, and have him and Tony connect. on that kind of level. I've never seen this other movie, but just also spoilers. What fucking spoilers? Just say this isn't my bag of tea. You should watch this movie for more substance on this issue. Sure. On the issue of the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, this seems like a really huge general movies these days yelling about. And I say yelling because there's a lot of exclamation points in here. They're actually yelling.
They also felt so strongly about it they needed to make a review.
Yeah.
Just say that it's not your bag. It's cool. I get no skin off my teeth.
Mm-hmm. In future years, it will be viewed as one of the great follies of our time that vast armies of people were employed making stuff like this at an insane cost. I finished the review the sentence before that, but that's a lot of people feel the way this person feels.
No.
And, they have
83 out of 197 found this review helpful. I forgot. The last one that I read, 7 out of 15 found this review helpful.
That's roughly 1/3. No.
Well, 83 times 2 is 166, so 2/5.
Yeah. So, this person has legitimate criticisms, but...
At least the next person's honest, because the first sentence says I couldn't get past the opening.
Right.
So I feel like that happened with the last person. Anyway, I'm gonna eat my words with this next review, but... Alright, it's by Bob Zerunkel, May 16th, 2012, around the time that Avengers came out, so maybe they went back to see this.
Avengers or the second Avengers?
No, Avengers came out in 2012, second
Gotcha.
Avengers came out in 2015.
Gotcha.
A steaming pile of Stark. I like that. If you had seen Captain America Civil War, they could have said a steaming pile of Stank. Tony Stank. I couldn't get past the opening. Thank you for being honest. The next sentence I half disagree with. They opened with Stark being a drunk and a whoremonger.
Correct.
Drunk. Not so much a whoremonger in the first scene, I'll say. If they're saying just the opening,
Mm-hmm.
before he gets bombed.
Mm-hmm.
In the first battle, a guy... Stop reading ahead. Spoilers.
I'm reading along.
I'm kidding. This is by Bob Zerunkel, if I didn't say that. In the first battle, a guy screams at him and then he gets ripped apart. No one screams at him. The only screaming in the first battle is, "Stay here!"
Well, I guess he exits a Humvee and he gets...
But no one screams at him after he exits,
Right.
And he gets ripped apart. The Humvee that Stark is in gets riddled with holes from the projectiles. Stark would have been liverwurst at that point. We acknowledge that in the breaking down, that if all these holes are looking right at him, he would have had some shrapnel in his face. When we find out that his heart condition is now merely shrapnel... What are you talking about? You couldn't get past the opening.
Merely shrapnel?
No, but the opening is that attack sequence. Then we get 20 minutes, I don't remember how many minutes, of his backstory. And then we get into the cave, and then we find out his heart is shrapnel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I could stand. Okay, so past the first 30 minutes or so. Why couldn't they make an Iron Man movie about Iron Man? About Iron Man? Why couldn't they make it about Iron Man? The next sentence makes no sense to me. Why did they have to make one about some god-awful person who is only fit for a Kardashian wedding? Do you know who Iron Man is? Demon in a bottle, bro.
Who do they think a rich? I mean,
Who do you think?
It's
Oh
usually
man, why couldn't they make a Captain America movie about Captain America? We saw him trying to get into the army. What a waste. Why do we have a goody two-shoe trying to get in the army? They should have made a movie about Captain America. You don't understand the character.
I mean, it's backstory.
That's who Tony Stark is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he started out as.
I mean, in the comics, sometimes he's still that. While being... They could have had a decent movie that was faithful to Iron Man and used the same plot.
How is this unfaithful to Iron Man? Do they elaborate?
No, because they didn't watch past that. Extremely poor if you like Iron Man. Maybe okay if you favor crap. I won't regret not seeing this turkey, but I do regret the 5 minutes that I spent seeing how badly they treated a pretty decent character. How much did you watch?
They had a poor perception
How
of time.
much did you watch? If you find out his heart is shrapnel, that's more than 5 minutes. I think if they watched the whole movie, they would have been like, where's 20 minutes of my life? Mm-hmm. This movie gets 1 star for the casting of Iron Man.
I knew it's good casting.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I made the pause. People literally I literally saw a comment earlier today.
They're saying instead of 0 stars, it gets 1 star.
No, I saw a comment earlier today that was talking about Tony Stark that said, or Robert Downey Jr. was like, it's crazy because he's actually Iron Man in real life. Man, Deadpool, 1 star because of the casting of Ryan Reynolds.
No, they're saying instead of 0 stars, that's the thing that gave it 1 star.
Well, they can't give it 0 stars. He's saying the movie gets 1 star for casting. Robert Downey Jr. is a true piece of trash, and his real life fits exactly the despicable person that they turned Tony Stark into. No,
that's his real life. He's Tony Stark.
His real life, his real past fit the exact origin story of Tony Stark. How dare you cast Chris Evans as Captain America? He's a really morally good guy in real life. Bad casting. How dare you cast Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool? He's a really funny, sarcastic, fourth wall breaking kind of guy. Horrible casting. How dare you cast Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns? He's a piece of shit in real life. Let's do at least one more.
Awful, Awful, Awful by Nick Lea. 1 out of 10, October 20th, 2008. Why such a high rating? All I can think is that the rating on this is done by fans of Marvel.
Good job. I thought he was saying, why did I give it such a high rating? It's 7.9. The average is 7.9 on IMDb.
For me, this is possibly one of the worst films I've seen. It was incredibly boring. Too long, too predictable, and just boring. Sorry I cannot be bothered to make constructive criticism. This was just terrible. I hope Iron Man 2 is better, but I'm not holding my breath. Avengers, now that could be amazing, but if it was done by the same people as this, it won't be. Unfortunate. I was expecting better. Sad face.
What's the date that this came out?
2008. So it was awful, 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 but he's like, I hope Iron Man 2 is better. I guess
I don't know where they're coming from, because they blame the good rating on Marvel fans, so they're excluding themselves from being a Marvel fan, but they still want to see Avengers and Iron Man 2. So I don't know. I don't know where they're coming from, so I can't comment on.
Yeah, I mean, oh wow. I mean, they don't elaborate on anything. They're just...
Let's do one more.
Yeah, sure.
Alright, warning spoilers. There better be some fucking spoilers. I swear. So this is not going as hard as the last one. The last one was awful, awful, awful. This one's titled Bad, lowercase, by M. Leroy. May 10th, 2008. Special effects are the only thing worth seeing in this movie. They are pretty good. And that is only if you can get past the garbage plot and acting. Not to mention the fact that every single movie has good special effects nowadays. Not true. Not true. When did Halle Berry's Catwoman come out?
Oh, that was like 2001.
Okay. When did Halle Berry's Catwoman come out?
Catwoman was released July 18th, 2004.
So really, there is no reason to see this film. At the beginning of the movie, the plot was okay at best, and 30 minutes in, it was obvious that they were struggling to make a 2-hour movie. Thus, the plot went from bad to Van Helsing bad in a hurry. First off,
Van Helsing? What was wrong with
Van Helsing was fun, chewy popcorn, not as great of his effects as this, but I dig it. Same director as the first 2 Mummies. It's fun, disposable, but fun.
I'm still trying to hear some real criticisms of the plot here. What's so bad about the plot?
If you don't know what Van Helsing bad is, then you are probably a very happy person having not seen that movie. That was a fun Hugh Jackman romp. If you have seen Van Helsing but don't understand the term Van Helsing bad, then you are probably one of the people who gave this sorry film 10 stars. If you worded it like a human being with empathy for others, it sounds like, well, if you liked Van Helsing, then that's your thing, and you like this movie. I don't like either.
I mean, this person just has
different folks, different strokes.
This dude just has a really black and white mindset here, but let's go.
I almost laughed during the emotional scene in the movie with Robert Downey Jr. whimpering. I thought he was going to talk Jensen, but Robert Downey Jr. is not whimpering.
I mean, we didn't get to that point.
There's no whimpering from him, though.
At the end of the movie when he's...
No, but I'm thinking of like all the emotional parts. The most emotional part where he's close to crying-ish is, push the button, but you'll die! Just push it! That was emotionally charged, but he's not whimpering, and the only part that he's really like whimpering is when he wakes up and he's in pain and he tries to get some water. He's like, and ripping open the chest bandages and pulling out the thing from his... Mm-hmm. That's not the emotional scene in the movie or one of the most emotional beats. It's okay. I got the feeling that he didn't care for the movie and acted accordingly. The robots in the movie were Oscar winners compared to Downey Jr.'s performance. There's no robots in the movie except Jarvis, and he's an AI, so he's not a robot. So I don't know what that means. Not a single person in the theater even cracked a smile for one of his jokes. Why are you looking at anyone's face in the theater? It's really creepy.
How does he
stop turning around in your seat seat and just shuffling through and looking at everyone's face. That's just, at least I know that when AMC theaters open and they're mandating that everyone has to wear a mask, you won't be able to check if they have a smile. Because it's creepy. You should stop it. The credits should have rolled after he was smashed against a wall. That was so funny when he did the 10%.
Yeah.
Seriously, I would have stood up and applauded. IMDb top 250. Are you kidding me? This movie is more overhyped than Spider-Man, but Spider-Man was actually half decent. Since this movie is not for kids, I cannot comprehend how this movie got such high reviews and ratings. Wake up, people. 26 of 63 found this review helpful. Again, Amazing Spider-Man hadn't come out until 2011, so you're trying to dunk on Spider-Man 1 and 2 and maybe 3. I don't. People still say Spider-Man 2 is the best superhero film of all time.
I love it, but I'm just not going to be such a pompous douche that I'm going to say that. You know?
I mean, but it's definitely better than half good or, half decent. You know, Spider-Man 2?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe part of this person's criticism is that they don't identify with the main character, you know?
But it's not even that. They thought Robert Downey Jr. didn't give a shit. He went through so much to get this part, and I understand they don't know that at the time because not all the special features and like stories about it have come out, about how hard he worked. He's very method, so he needs to get to set with like a game plan, and he can't shift easily. He can improv in that mindset, but if you tell him, all right, the character's not actually thinking about this, we need to change how you're portraying how the character's feeling, he can't really do that. Like, he breaks stuff down to such a degree that he can work within a framework. That's why when he was in Spider-Man Homecoming and Tom Holland forgot to move his leg so that Tony could sit down, he improv'd on the set in that take, I'm gonna sit down now, so move the leg, because that fit within the framework. For his audition, he was so dedicated to getting this part that he broke his process and did like multiple breakdowns so that he could transition in between them and try to give them options so that he could get it. He killed himself to get this role.
The only way that I could kind of see what this person is talking about is when Tony's miserable, his facial expression, maybe he doesn't look all that miserable. He's like shocked. He's like, you know, he kind of looks like he's trying to muscle through it when he's in pain, which that's just someone trying to be tough and muscle through. Like, did he want to see more anguish on his face? Like, I'm not sure.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to rewatch it and consider that. But, like, I don't know. Even up to Endgame, he would always have, like, these weekend lunches with the directors to just really dive into what his upcoming scenes were and really get it down. Things that came out of that were incorporating the pens in Captain America Civil War as part of the debate between him and Captain America. The conversation about what his last words would be before he snapped in Endgame, that took a long time. They did a lot of takes. That dinner or lunch that they were having when they suggested I am Iron Man, this is the one time he was like nervous and almost made the wrong call. He thought about how emotional that would be for him personally and what a big journey this 11 years or at that, 10 years or whatnot, how emotional that was. And he was like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't really want to do that. And Joel Silver, who has produced some films with him, was there, and he was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's amazing. Like, there's videos about the continuity of his injury in his arm when he gets hit by a shell after he blows up the Jericho missile before he shoots the tank. Mm-hmm. How in Captain America Civil War, in a bunch of places, he literally like nurses his arm wound, kind of. And in Captain America Civil War, I believe it's after he fought the Winter Soldier, he was like, my left arm is numb. Is that normal? Like, he kept this continuity through directors and different projects just because of his intense dedication. And I know this was written in 2008, but like, they just misread that on a fundamental level and were wrong.
I have my own criticisms of the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Robert Downey Jr. did a really damn good job, and that's pretty, like, this person saying it looked like he didn't give a shit. The way I read what I'm perceiving this person's problem to be when I'm viewing the movie is that Tony Stark doesn't show weakness even to himself. He's a very strong-willed individual who knows how to get shit, like, he knows the process to get shit done, and so when he's in trouble, he knows how to proceed, and he's trying to move forward. And I didn't read that as, oh, Robert Downey Jr. clearly didn't give a shit, you know?
Yeah, of all the people, he may have given the most shits.
Yeah.
And possibly that may have outweighed Kevin Feige. I'm not so sure about that, considering everything, but Yeah, what?
Well-
IMDb top 250. Are you kidding me? I mean, the other podcast, one of them I'm doing is Bondman at Bond, and we broke down a really problematic scene or couple scenes, and we were fine voicing those criticisms because they were valid. So any problems you have with it, sure, we're gonna voice it in a way that makes sense.
Right, and explain it a little bit more. We're gonna explain it a little bit more too. Well, those are all people that are just clearly bad at life.
Also, where are the spoilers? Where are the spoilers? Where are the spoilers? You said the robots in the movie. There's no robots in the movie. You said emotional scene, but I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What?
It's like I said, bad at life. I'm kidding when I say bad at life. I'm just digging at these random people on the internet. So.
Oh wow. It would be nice to see like an updated review with time and context and be like, in the big picture, what do you think? But oh well. Hope you enjoyed this special video, whether you watched it early on Patreon. There's going to be a continuing roll of these as all the podcasts continue. So whenever you're watching this, there are going to be special videos available for you. Or if you just saw this after our breakdown was done, what's up? How you doing? Do you agree with these? What was your review of Iron Man 1? And was it a 1-star review? I doubt if it was, if you're here now. But what out of 10 is your star? What out of 10 is your star rating?
For Iron Man?
Yeah.
Well,
Iron Man 1.
this is like probably my first time watching it in 10 to 12 years, right?
Oh yeah.
So
You're halfway through it, basically.
I feel it's a lot more original than the other Marvel movies, honestly. So far, it's still big budget and a little predictable, but
I mean,
I'm
this
enjoying
is definitely
it.
like I think the lowest budget of them all. Like this,
Sure.
this and Hulk, and probably Captain America and Thor maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But now like Black Panther has a $200 million budget. This definitely didn't have that.
So they succeeded in giving it a big budget feel without a big budget. How about that?
Yeah, and there were a lot less Marvel movies and projects coming out, so much so that the visual effects artists could dedicate a lot more time and care to the effects. There's videos about how like Iron Man's armor doesn't look as good as this one, and it's valid.
Yeah.
As the movies go on and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, so far I'd give it like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. So.
Yeah, I'd give it 8 out of 10. And the IMDb is 7.9, so...
Yeah. What is your favorite Marvel movie, period?
Captain America Civil War.
All right. Mm-hmm. We're going to
get
get there.
the dynamic, dense storytelling, and literally so many people were talking in reviews and stuff about how much chemistry there was between Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie, and I will tell you all their lines in that movie that they say to each other. Can you move your seat up? No. Who's that? Everybody's got a gimmick now, talking about Spider-Man. And then at the end of the Spider-Man fight, when Falcon uses Redbird to take Spider-Man away, Winter Soldier says, "You couldn't have done that earlier? I hate you." Those 6 lines made almost every review I read say, man, their chemistry is amazing. And then their chemistry in interviews all led up to them having their own fucking show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, coming up on Disney+. Mwah! It's so good that you can get down to that point that people are like, what? Like they love 6 fucking lines in such a big movie, a bigger cast than any Avengers film had up to that point. And it just all fires on every cylinder. My second favorite is Black Panther because it's also very dense. I like that. I like that dense storytelling.
For me, Black Panther stood out because the antagonist, you understood him more on a personal level, and you could be like, I come from the school of thought that I already know everyone's not an angel, and...
How dare you? I'm perfection.
Okay. Oh, that is laughable.
Wow. That almost seemed aggressively spiteful.
Yeah. It should have been.
Damn, boy. Okay. I don't like the King of Staten Island anymore. Take that.
So,
I do.
But no, what I know is up there is Spider-Man Far From Home. I really like that. But, we're on our way to rewatching all of them. A lot of the Marvel movies I've seen just once, so I should see them again and make a better judgment then, so.
Yeah, I will say I think this isn't MCU, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is at least tied with Captain America Civil War for me.
Is that
the animated one?
Is that technically part of the MCU?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But in terms of quality.
Yeah. Well, shall we?
Cool beans. We'll do this again with some more 1-star reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So, and definitely on every single movie that we do. Thank you for either pledging even just $1 to the Patreon or watching these special videos after we're done with that breakdown. We'll see you in the next one, wherever we are. And like I said, honestly, please tell me what your rating was at the time and if it's changed over time. Because I liked it. It definitely put its best foot forward. If The Incredible Hulk had gone first, that would not have been the best foot forward. Although I'd liked that at the time as well.
Yeah, it's too bad Ron Howard didn't continue though after this movie. You know,
Ron Howard?
who plays Rhodey?
Oh, Terrence Howard.
That's Terrence Howard.
Ron Howard
My
is the
life.
director who did Solo.
This isn't the
Or
first
who
time I made that
overtook-
mistake either.
That's all good. Yeah, that one. I saw a video today by Heavy Spoilers that talked about all the little connections that Iron Man had to the rest of the MCU after an Infinity Saga rewatch. And it said, man, Terrence Howard made such a mistake not coming back for Iron Man 2, although the recasting scene in Iron Man 2 is one of the best. And I just had to be like, okay, we all know that he didn't just quit. Like Ike Perlmutter, the person who was in charge of Marvel until Bob Iger was like, no, Kevin's in charge of the movies. Stick to your little TV stuff. He kept off like Black Panther happening and Captain Marvel happening sooner because he was racist and sexist. And Terrence Howard had a nice contract where the first Iron Man movie, I think he made like $1 million. Second, he would make $2 million. Third, he would make $4 million. And Ike Perlmutter was like, take lesser money for Iron Man 2 or we'll just replace you with some other black actor because artists won't give a shit. And I don't know the more details about this part, but he said that he called Robert Downey Jr., who apparently he helped get the part of Tony Stark, which makes sense because a lot of people said that Terrence Howard was cast before Robert Downey Jr. was cast, and Robert Downey Jr. didn't return his call. I've heard a rumor that Terrence Howard was a little difficult to work on set, though I don't know, but ultimately he would have come back if Ike Perlmutter just wasn't a piece of shit. And it's like, what did they give Don Cheadle in the first movie? I think they were shooting for like $500,000. It would have worked out in the long term, but it was just wrong. And it wasn't a mistake. I mean, maybe like long term, but like morally, he shouldn't have had to do that. He shouldn't have had to cave for less money when a contract was signed and it should have been honored. So
For $500,000 too. He just wanted to cut their pay in half.
I mean, he would have made $2 million on Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
He
okay.
wanted him to take half as much as he made on the first one.
Right,
So
yeah,
it's
true.
like, fuck you, dude. Like now, after all that bullshit is passed and Robert Downey Jr. went to bat for all his other Avengers co-stars and stuff to get paid properly, because Chris Hemsworth made $500,000 on the first Thor, and I think he was making something like that for Thor 2 as well, but he made $10 million on Snow White and the Huntsman, you know, just to give perspective around the same time. Ike Perlmutter is just a piece of shit. Piece of shit! So, yeah, I love Terrence Howard. He's amazing in Hustle and Flow, one of my favorite movies. Favorite movie I've ever seen with him in it. I've seen him in Fighting with Channing Tatum. This movie, it's amazing. The gif of Next Time, Baby is so heartbreaking, considering no to Next Time, Baby. Well, what did you say about Terrence Howard in the first place?
It was a shame he didn't continue after this movie. Then,
Yeah, Don Cheadle's amazing, but
Yeah.
I would have rather had one of them be Rhodey the whole time so that we know that they were respected from the beginning.
If I'm being super honest here, I think Terrence Howard has more of the square jaw fitting of the military type. That's why I saw him more as Rhodey. When I heard they were casting Don Cheadle, I was like, really? They're going to replace him? And Don Cheadle did an amazing job, but, you know.
I mean, I love Don Cheadle. Him in Iron Man 3 when he's saying the password of War Machine rocks with 3 X's or whatever, and then in Avengers Age of Ultron when he's like, and then I drop the tank and boom, you looking for this? And then just Iron Man and Thor are standing there with their drinks and he goes, boom, why do I even tell stories to... Oh, that's the whole story. It's a War Machine story. Oh, then it was very good. I think, just guessing, I think Don Cheadle would have performed that scene specifically better than Terrence Howard, just based on the skill set, because Don Cheadle is much funnier in stuff that he's done. So I love him. I just wanted one of them to be it the whole time, and not for like an Edward Norton reason. Interestingly, the director of The Incredible Hulk wanted Mark Ruffalo from the get, but Mark Ruffalo wasn't a huge star, so they didn't do that. They went for Ed Norton, which was the financially better option, I guess.
Ed Norton, in my opinion, was better casting, but you didn't want to continue with them for whatever reason. And Mark Ruffalo, for the first Hulk movie, he was a romantic comedy actor. That's
13
what he
going on 30.
That's what he had been typecast as, and so they just didn't pick him for. I mean, I would prefer to see Edward Norton the whole time too. I'm a Edward Norton fan. I like his acting, but
I'm an Edward Norton fan, but I understand why they didn't do it. On Iron Man 1 and The Incredible Hulk, they both went to the actors to help shape the story a lot more. So Edward Norton had a lot of input on The Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Downey Jr. had a lot of input on Iron Man 1. And I hear that Edward Norton can sometimes be very difficult to work with, just sometimes, and I wouldn't be surprised if going into Avengers, Edward Norton would have wanted a lot of input as well. Again, like Robert Downey Jr. offered his input, but he was down to be a part of the team. And I really like what Mark Ruffalo's done with it. I don't see Edward Norton's Hulk fitting into all these other movies. You know, I don't see Edward Norton's Hulk fitting into Thor Ragnarok specifically, you know?
I thought Mark Ruffalo was fine. I didn't think he was amazing. You like what he did with it?
I love it. And I think he's a great human being as well, just like all the other cast members, very humanitarian focused. Now he's doing all these great movies like Dark Waters, which was... And then he also did the Spotlight, which I bought, but I need to see. And I loved him in 13 going on 30. If he had been cast from the get, I would have been like, cool.
When I think of the Hulk, I want someone who's on edge the entire time. Mark Ruffalo tried to portray that. He looked more conflicted the entire time, which I guess works for Hulk, but it's not the Hulk that I was always looking for. I also he injected a lot of mellowness into the role too, and Hulk's supposed to be an angry motherfucker on edge, you know. Still props to Mark Ruffalo. He did an above average job. I generally liked him in the role, but I just thought I have opinions.
I also think that Joss Whedon was going for a more skittish Bruce Banner. Someone who was a little more shy, trying to avoid the conflict, you know, let things roll over him more. So, because if he responds and things escalate, then there's more of a risk to becoming the Hulk. And Edward Norton, I don't see backing down from anything. And Edward Norton was amazing in that Richard Gere movie, Primal Fear. Oh my gosh, that was the first time I ever saw him. He's spectacular. But Edward Norton I see is a lot more confrontational. So I don't think he would have avoided the fight, as Black Widow says in Avengers Age of Ultron. Here's this guy who lives his whole life avoiding the fight because he knows he'll win. I don't see Edward Norton ever avoiding a fight.
I mean, Edward Norton having a hard time avoiding the fight continuously would have been good on screen. You know, just him continuously conflicted at avoiding the fight. That's, for some reason, I really like that. For some reason, I identify with that because I gotta control myself. And I gotta, you know, so.
All right, we're about to hit the 30-minute limit again on my DSLR, and we've gone beautifully off the rails from these 1-star reviews. So I'll say I'll bid you adieu, and we'll see you in the other 1-star review special videos that we've got. And we'll also have a commentary that we're going to watch. It may already be live after we finish breaking down this movie. Second question I want to ask is, what movie are you most excited to get these minute breakdowns to? If you are excited at all. You may only be coming here for the 1-star review.
Hopefully we're not boring the shit out of you with our minute reviews, okay?
Anyone who wants to dive into this has to be as passionate as us, I have to believe.
Yeah. So, I'm Richard.
I'm Brian.
You've got an army.
We've got special 1-star reviewing videos, right? Because we're reviewing the 1-star reviews. That makes sense. Bye.
Deuces.
That means shit.
No, it doesn't.